Alright, next things I'm doing on this car, because the core support was pushed in the way it was, or the radiator support, and here's the AC condenser. Now it's, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's crimped up pretty bad at the top. Now the AC still works, but the problem is with these cars and a lot of vehicles, the AC condenser is right up against the radiator. If you look, I mean, here's the radiator right behind it. If I put this back together, there is a good chance, now I could go evacuate the refrigerant out of this system, and I could pull this back out so it's not going to hit it, so that the clamp will fit, because the clamp's not holding them apart anymore. And then you wouldn't have air conditioning. And this is a buddy deal. This is not a customer job. He might be okay with that, but for what an AC condenser costs, yeah, it's a pain to get it out. And then you got to evacuate it first and recharge it. But if I leave this rubbing up against that radiator, chances are, first of all, I want to see if it's touching the radiator and it's already rubbed it. He didn't drive it after this. It got taken straight home. So I pumped the radiator up, and it's upside down, but it's holding 15 pounds, probably for like 15 minutes now. So I'm just going to leave it pumped up to make sure, but you need to assess these kind of things, even if you're doing it for a buddy, or you know, it's your wife's car, or it's your vehicle, whatever you're doing, and you want to do it yourself. You need to go over and do some investigative work and make sure that something else, you know, it might be pretty when you put it back together. Man, you painted up a great bumper, and you painted your hood, and you blended your fenders, and everything came out good enough for you. You're happy and pleased with it. And then you're on your way to work and you're running late, and the radiator takes a shit on you. Just things you should think about if you're tearing these apart. Even if you're flipping cars, you don't want to do that to somebody over $100 radiator. Or even online, you know, they're $75-80 for these small cars. It doesn't have to be a Denso radiator, or a Delco, or any of the, you know, Nismo. It doesn't have to be a high-end radiator. Just change it if it's leaking. This one doesn't appear to be leaking, but the AC condenser, I don't feel comfortable leaving like that. Another thing, the hood latch got punched on this. I checked this cable, it's not frayed anywhere. Everything appears to be good. The ball on the end is still well secured. I've pulled on it with channel locks. So I'm not scared that they won't be able to get the hood open on this. This cable should be just fine. We'll test it before we put the grill back in it, so I can still get my hand in here if I had to and unbolt the hood latch if for some reason it does not work. But we've got to change the hood latch, and we've got to change the support that goes from top to bottom. Because here's the hood latch. Got to set in. I mean, you could try to straighten that, but who wants to risk somebody's life when the hood comes up and blows the windshield out going 75 miles an hour down the freeway? It's not worth $50 or $75 to have somebody get in an accident. Same thing with this. This is the support here. This goes all the way up, but it's ripped the plug weld out of it. Now, you could argue maybe I can straighten this, and maybe you're right. I might be able to straighten it, but it's pretty mutilated, and again, for another $50 or $75, it's not worth somebody's life, because that's what that bolts to. It's just not worth it. So go over these things. I consider them safety items. You know, it's one thing to be broke down on the side of the road, but if your hood flings up and blows the windshield out of the car when you're going 70 down the highway, chances are you're not going to get it stopped before you hit somebody. Especially the way traffic flows on our highways around here, or any highway for that matter. So that's some things to be concerned about and take a look at. As far as everything else goes, we're not going to be able to really do any more video on this until I get some parts and start trying to fit them, because we may have to adjust the fenders, but we'll need, at least for me, minimally, I want the bumper cover and the headlights and the hood. The bumper cover isn't as big of a deal as having the headlights and the hood on it, because I want the hood to match up to the fender gap, or the fender tips, and to close properly on the headlights, and I want the headlights to fill this gap properly. Bumper cover's flexible. It will usually conform a little bit depending. But other things to look at, I mean, you want to look at this crash bar, the bumper impact absorber, and I think those are rated for a 10 or 15 mile an hour crash, and they're not heavy. But this one wasn't even struck because the hit was all the way up at the hood latch. He ran under the back of a Jeep Cherokee or something like that. So it caught him just right and just punched that in. So this absorber is fine. It's been off before. I don't believe these chassis legs have been messed with. They both look straight. They don't look like there's any, well, I may take my previous statement back. This thing took a passenger front corner hit. So this chassis leg may have been straightened. Sorry about that, guys. Because we see the outer part of the chassis leg has a plug weld on it, a shitty one at that. There's another one, and we have plug welds here and here. And for some reason, all I'm thinking is they maybe drilled those spot welds out. This may still be a factory piece, but they drilled the spot welds out of it so that they could pull this chassis leg, because if you look at the leg, I don't see any signs of them pulling on it because there's too much stuff on the car, but it's got some overspray here where they threw some paint on that frame end. And again, we have plug welds here. I don't know what this is. I'm assuming that's rust. But do your homework. Look at the car and decide whether there's maybe something else wrong with it before you continue. If it's an old vehicle and it's got a lot wrong with it, you know, maybe it's outside the scope of what you want to tackle, or ask somebody who has some dimensions for you so you can make sure the thing's square. These welds definitely don't make me happy. I may grind that one down and redo it, but at the end of the day, the bumper absorber is going to hit the end of the chassis leg before anything else terrible happens, at least in my opinion. But another reason I know I got this close to square is after loosening these, the washers were shoved back on this a little bit, and when I pulled it, they cover their rust mark where they rusted on it, so I know I've got it real damn close. We were probably 3/8 of an inch out over here, and probably an inch to an inch and a quarter in the center. We're still holding 15 pounds. That's good news. I don't know what else I can say about this. I'm probably not going to video me changing that AC condenser because I'm sure it's not going to be fun. So we'll bring you back when we're going to fit up some parts. Hope you guys are all having a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one. One last thing, I think I showed this in a previous clip, but I wanted to show you guys my little pulling tool here. So basically this is a piece of, I believe it's 1/4 inch, maybe 5/16 C-channel. It's just what I had laying around, but I knew it would be good and strong to pull from. And I basically took a piece of 1/4 5/16 flat plate and blew some holes in it with the plasma cutter so I could put bolts in it. So when you tighten down the bolts, that will clamp on a pinch weld. And then I've got a hole there, which you can either run a chain through, a smaller chain, maybe 1/4 inch chain or a 5/16 chain. And these bigger ones here where the hook from the puller actually will grab it. But this was just rough made in about 15 minutes because I don't have any clamps. But just in case somebody wanted a quick puller, the key is to stand out of the way. I didn't have it come off on me, but the real clamps are actually, first of all, they look nothing like this, but where the two plates come together, it's knurled inside the jaws so it gets a good grip, and this is just smooth steel. So I don't have any way to knurl that to make it grab better. I guess I could have put a bunch of sharp dots of weld on it and ground points on it, but I don't want to mangle anything either, and this did work just fine. You know, use at your own risk, build at your own risk, but that's what I had to use, and I wanted to make sure that that you could sort of see what I did. And I had grade 8 bolts in it. These are like grade 5s, I think, that worked fine, but the grade 8s were too short for one of the spots that was kind of mangled that I couldn't straighten first. In hindsight, I would have made it shorter. I would have made it about half that wide and put 2 bolts in it to clamp with, strictly because I was bridging too long of a gap. And you can't see it now, but basically where the hood latch was, this center here was rolled under, and it was hard to get it over that gap without longer bolts in it. And by drawing those bolts up, it actually pulled that straight, especially once I started pulling outward with it. But just wanted to show that real quick, so I'll leave you with that, and we will catch you on the next one.